Ebusianfoneti for high daily update TV so share and answer no first time I share so need no book so now I subscribe my single news be no she be a notification of phone so now I be shafin so my fi so be share more down for so enye bi twete for me go to damage issue. Radio a video e kwa share John Dramani Mahama na ba bonten live and on na fipamfo edim komo ne ganafo ni edim komo insem no ka no ɛyɛ ɔmo 18 no ebusa no questions a no we ano na nsɛm a de gugu e de afa bi kama no ko no de ese wani nse ɔka kyerɛ boss ɔmo abɔ afei nso wie na ɔmo promises ahodo a ɔba a wɔde bɛba drivers for ɔmo retire for ne ade hyehyɛ bɔ agye sɛ na ɛyɛ very interesting wie no ɛna ɔno a ɔde 24-hour economy ne ban no ɔkyerɛkyerɛ nneɛma mu ma nyinaa ɔkyerɛkyerɛ nneɛma mu ma atifo nyinaa teɛ because nneɛma a ɔde ba abɔnten bɛyɛ liki no ano ɔhye paa ɛyɛ video a yɛkɔ akɔhwɛ mensa mmerɛ no yɛka mo ne nkɔhwɛ saa video no yɛbaa ne yɛde nkɔmmɔ twetwe no ato ase nneɛma bi a ɔte bi a wobɛtumi na wadwe nkyɛn akɔ comment section no adrɔpe sɛ video no ɛkɔ so na wɔhwɛ a bɛtumi de ɛyɛ saa comment section comment na akɔ comment section hɔ so ɔka mo ne nkɔte John Dramani Mahama live yɛbaa ne yɛde nkɔmmɔ twetwe no ato
serve in rural schools. We also talked about cancellation of teachers' licensure exams so that when teachers come out of school, their final exam in training school will be the process for licensing them so that they don't have to come back and take another exam. We've also discussed with the teachers about their promotion and the constraint that is created when they get to the position of deputy director. And that is an issue that we're willing to sit down with the teachers and resolve. In many cases, I've been asked about other issues to do with premiums and other allowances and so on and so forth. And I've been constrained to respond because we know the crisis in which we find our country, the mess in which our economy is. One thing I've promised you is that I'll promise you a leaner government, we'll have fewer ministers, we'll cut government expenditure so that any savings that we make, we can use it to better the lives of hard-working teachers and other professionals. Thank you, Likee, for that question. This is Elvis Kafrido from Goso. Thank you, Elvis, for this question from far away Goso. Thank you so much. And he says, please, sir, I heard you, the question has, please, sir, I heard you talk about the National Drivers' Day. And I'll be grateful if you could explain further because I think it's a good move to honor our drivers. We all know the carnage on our roads and the accidents that take place every day, taking lives of our loved ones and causing horrendous injury to many of our family and relations. We believe that just as we have the National Teachers' Day where we honor the best teachers, we can have a National Drivers' Day where in every region we'll choose the best driver who has driven for years without accident, who observes the road regulations, who keeps his car well serviced and in good condition. We'll identify all those drivers over the regions and we'll honor them. We'll also at the national level have the national best driver and we'll honor him, give them some rewards so that it encourages other drivers to emulate them. But let me point out, the National Drivers' Day is not going to be a holiday. Like the Teachers' Day, if it's a working day, we'll go to work. But we will have an event that honors the best drivers, not only nationally, but in all the regions. Thank you very much for that question from Goso. The Daily Bright. And he says, Mr. President, can you and your party protect my vote and the votes of Ghanaians? The Delhi, I wish to promise you that we will protect your votes. Our Elections Directorate and our IT Directorate are working very hard. And we're putting the right things in place to make sure that this election is transparent, free and fair. Because we are of the utmost belief that if the election is transparent and fair, the NDC would win the election. And so we're doing everything to protect your vote. Vote for change, vote for John Mahama, vote for your NDC parliamentary candidate. And I assure you, we're going to put the right people in place in all the polling stations to make sure that everything is done transparently and fairly. And it's my expectation that the EC, the security services, and everybody who is supposed to be involved in this election will also do their best to make sure that everything is done right. Your duty is to go cast your vote for John Mahama, cast your vote for your NDC parliamentary candidate, and I can assure you your vote will count. We will make sure your vote is protected. Thank you, the Delhi. Next one. One main challenge your government will face if you win is how to salvage the economy. Even with the IMF program, they are still sinking it. And Ghanaians are, what will you do differently to restore investor confidence, create jobs, etc.? It's taking 7.5 years for this government to totally, bring an economy to its knees. Indeed, these 7.5 years are a lesson in how not to run an economy. We started with 125 ministers, huge government expenditures. Government expenditure ballooned. We put money into things that did not yield any direct benefit to the people. There are many one district, one factories that are not operating. They have no equipment in them, and yet billions of cedis were put into these factories. We have one village, one dams that are not fit for purpose. There's no dry season agriculture taking place there, and yet billions of cedis were pumped into these things. And so I have promised that we're going to open the books. We'll tell Ghanaians what the state of the economy is, because we must work together to create so that we can share. You can't share when you haven't created. And the thrust of our economic policy is going to be the 24-hour economic policy. And as I said, that is a policy that is going to incentivize our existing manufacturers, businesses, and services to add on additional shifts and produce more. If we produce more under the African Continental Free Trade Area, we can export the excess to other African countries. If we produce more under the ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme, we can export into the ECOWAS market. The thrust of our economic policy is going to be with agribusiness and agriculture, because that would be the bedrock of our economy. Import substitution is going to be important. For instance, it comes as a surprise to people that we import palm oil into this country, and yet Malaysia and Indonesia, from where we import the palm oil, took the palm seeds from West Africa. And so we're going to increase the production of oil palm so that we can stop and cut down the importation of vegetable cooking oil. We're going to increase the production of rice so that we can cut down the importation of rice. We did that when we were in office. We cut down the importation of rice in the years towards the middle of our administration. We're going to produce more tomatoes so that we cut down the importation of tomatoes. And so import substitution is going to be the way to go. We're going to have agro-processing zones in all the regions. And so every region will have an agro-processing zone and an agribusiness zone. We will provide the roads into the agribusiness zone. We will bring electricity and water. So if you're an investor who wants to go into agro-processing, the land will be there, the electricity will be there, the water will be there, there'll be a road going to the agribusiness zone. And so all you have to do is to come and set up your factory, put your equipment in, buy the produce, and start producing. And each of the agribusiness zones will be tailored towards the crops that region has a comparative advantage to produce. So for instance, in Bono and Bono East, definitely cashew processing is going to be one of the things we are looking at. In that area too, they produce a lot of cassava. So processing cassava, starch, and cassava flour for the biscuit industry, for the brewery industry, for export are some of the things that we're going to look at. If you go to OT, they produce a lot of rice, they produce ginger. We would have ginger factories in OT to process the ginger the farmers there are producing into ginger oil, ginger powder, both for local use and for exports. If you go to other regions have advantages. The north has a lot of soya bean, is producing a lot of soya bean, and so soya bean processing will be available in the north. We're going to revamp the cotton industry so that we'll have cotton generous producing again in the north. We're going to bring textile manufacturing companies so that we will produce the cotton, we will feed them to the textile manufacturing companies so that they can make textiles and garments for export to America under AGOA and all the other trade incentives that we have. And so there's a lot that we have on our plate. We're going to incentivize the pharmaceutical center because we want Ghana to become the pharmaceutical hub for the whole of West Africa, and if not for Africa. In my first term, I did it when I gave the pharmaceutical companies, manufacturing companies, support to expand their production, and they did that. And based on that, we started exporting to Sierra Leone, to Liberia, to Burkina Faso, to Mali. We're going to do it again and do it even bigger. Aside from that, a thrust of our economic policy would be to give advantage to Ghanaian registered businesses. If you're manufacturing a product in Ghana, we would use government spending ability and government spending muscle to give you first priority rather than buy an imported product. And so if we have a cough syrup produced in Ghana, we are better off buying our cough syrup than importing that cough syrup from India. Or if we want to buy analgesics for the Ghana Health Service, we are better off buying analgesics, paracetamol, and all the other painkillers produced in Ghana than importing them. And so we're going to give an advantage to private sector in Ghana to be able to expand their production and get a good market so that we can build prosperity for ourselves. And let's go on. The Rudolph Kojo Mante, and Kojo says that the current government has polluted the security services. That's a very interesting word, polluted security services. What are the three key things to do to normalize the above mess? The security services are manned by Ghanaians, and I don't have a problem with the men and women in uniform as long as they act professionally. They should always remember that they are servants of the state and they are supposed to give service to the state of Ghana and not be used by any political party or any administration as an extension of that party. And so I urge our men and women in uniform to act professionally. We're not going to come into office and go persecuting any people in the security services. Indeed, we need more.
For any idea about the for Amatisa News, I just said, John Dramani Mahama Naba life, I just say, or ne Nkofo be dinkomo, and the Ghana food dinkomo, how I and near men coswa enjoy economy now, as say no, or criticize about me because one more shall no be sent as some, not this question about 2 screens. Na wakan no yoma no pepepe hyehyɛ wo ba kesi obi anya ne de driver for engineers retired like adwumayɛfo mo Ghana teachers for police for just obi anya ne de just ama just Ghana for any just video na ba out ne pa just John Dramani Mahama na ba bonte ne omo di nkomo pa anya asenguto no video no yini a share kika nsɛm a na ɛhyɛ nkwan paa kyɛ sɛ wɔka sɛ ɔno vote na kyɛ sɛ Ghanafoɔ su sɛ bia ɛyi si ne bɛwie mu ne ade no ɔsɛ ɔno no IT personnel ɔmo hwehwɛ like nneɛma a gye mensa yɛ no nti ɔno ntimi nyɛ hwee nneɛma wɔ aba abɔnten bɛka no na ɛmu ɛde yi paa obɛtumi no adwenkyɛ no aba wɔ comment so obɛtumi nso ahyɛ mo adamfo so ɛnyɛ bi ahwɛ subscribe ma ne di no bo kwan so yɛde tifo nyina zɔ ba daily update bɛhwɛ